and that was on News in 90 Seconds. Guys, this morning we dive straight ahead into our conversation. And this morning we have the privilege of chatting online with the PNM prospective candidate for Darrell Spring Wim, Kelvon Morris. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Felix. Good morning to our viewers, our Tobagonians, Trinidad and Tobagonians, wherever you may be at this time. Always a privilege.
Excellent. So we are in the middle of, in the hype of the election season here in Tobago as we're approaching the 2026 T.H.A election on January 12th. You and your party are obviously preparing for this election, but you have decided to put yourself forward once more and were selected to represent this district again. Tell us a little bit about how that journey towards a possible re-election has been going for you.
Well, my candidacy and my representation has always been about people first, and we would have really exuded that and demonstrated that in every aspect of my representation. As you know, one of the things I set out to do very early as a representative is to ensure that we stayed on the ground and we really kept, in tune with the residents of the community. So very consistently, we did our community walkabouts. And, that was one of the highlights for me because that is the opportunity you get as a representative to really get the pulse of the people. You get an opportunity to interact with them, understand what are their challenges, and therefore you are in a position to better represent those challenges to the executive and to have them addressed. Notwithstanding the fact that I was the lone PNM representative in this current T.H.A assembly, I was able to get a number of key challenges resolved. One of those highlights for me was the Montpelier Road, which was really a bugbear for not just the residents of Montpelier, but all of Tobago, because at that point, Montpelier Road was a major transit for public servants trying to get to Glen Road, where we have a number of T.H.A offices. And therefore, through various methods of advocacy, we wrote, we did Facebook Lives, and finally, we were able to do a petition that engaged residents and Tobagonians with hundreds of signatures, and we finally got that road paved. During that period as well, one of the things I've always said, service comes before office, and therefore, as a representative, you have to always be so dynamic in how you find ways to connect and to serve your district. So you ought not just really rely on the largest of the state to be able to treat with the issues of your residents. And therefore, we had a number of real key initiatives. One of them, I started the annual district sports and family day, because ultimately I believe family life is key to building a holistic and productive community. And therefore that sports and family day welcomed over 300 families. We had, in terms of the football, over 10 teams from various communities in the district. And it was something that really allowed us to foster camaraderie among the residents of the electoral district of Darrell Spring Wim. And of course, they say Christmas is for children. And we have always been able from the onset to execute. We don't just call it a Christmas treat, but a children's Christmas extravaganza. And we do this with absolutely no charge to the families, understanding that we are in extremely difficult times. And the goal of that Christmas extravaganza has always been to make every child feel valued at Christmas, because Christmas is the one time you want to ensure that no child goes without a toy. And that has always been our goal, and we have achieved that tremendously, gifting over 500 children on an annual basis with toys, and of course giving them a fun day as well, where they get to enjoy, and feel appreciated as a child. And then we have a number of different outreach programs that we continue to have during the year. One of the things we have set up is a district contingency fund, and that fund has been able to help families in time of grief, bereavement, with funeral assistance. Our young athletes, some athletes may not be able to afford things like a cleats or a spike to run, etc. That fund has been able to provide that kind of support. So I am
Understood.
extremely pleased with the work we have done, and we look forward to doing even more as we go forward
Understood.
into the next election.
Some persons may say that the people of Darrow Spring Wim are now in between a rock and a hard place. You have two candidates from the area who some people might say seemingly have grown up together, around the same neighborhood, both persons being from WIM, just really both being engaged in the community and almost being like family when you look at the dynamics of how WIM is, if you know anything about the community of WIM. For you, how is it almost going up against a cousin or someone who you would have kicked ball with in the community and have been so close to it growing up?
Well, such is the cut and thrust of democracy, and everyone has the right to choose and associate with whichever political entity they believe best serve their interests, and therefore, the the TPP candidate is, of course, a resident, well, a born, also from the village of Wim, and someone I also know quite well, and therefore I wish him all the very best. At the end of the day, so far we have really engaged in a very clean campaign, and therefore I trust that it will continue to be that way. But ultimately, what I am leveraging to the people of the electoral district of Darrow Spring is my track record of service, my track record of commitment, being with them, championing their cause, no matter the situation. And while it has been extremely difficult, as I said, being the lone PNM representative, because of course you are not at the seat of the table where the decisions are being made, and ultimately sometimes your issues are not prioritized. I am confident and quite satisfied in the work we were able to get done. Of course, there is more work to be done, and in having the conversations, one of the things I'm really happy about in is that there's not almost I've always represented not seeing colors. So even now that I do my walkabout at this time, I do not wear party colors because I see my residents as family. And therefore, I've always been welcome as well as family. And therefore, because representation goes beyond just simply identifying people with along party lines. It is about really recognizing genuinely the needs of your constituent and responding to those needs simply because you care and because you want to make a difference. And
Right.
that is how I have always represented.
So not wearing your party colors during this time as you do your walkabout and engage in in the community, does that say anything about how persons are responding to the PNM at this moment, to the point where you have decided that, possibly you may get a better response by not wearing the PNM's
No,
colors?
no. And as I said, absolutely not. I'm a proud PNM, of course. For me, when we have our meetings, I will put on my party colors. But at the same time, I do that simply with demonstrating to my residents that I am a representative for all, and therefore I choose not to wear the party colors, not because the PNM, as you know, is a well-respected party throughout Trinidad and Tobago. And notwithstanding that we lost favor with the electorate, I am quite confident based on the reception I'm getting as we go house to house, door to door, knocking and speaking with every resident, that at this time the people of Tobago are quite um, welcoming in considering the People's National Movement again, because as I've said, you would have heard it from the political leader and all the current candidates. We recognize that the PNM, like any institution, is not a perfect one. We would have made errors along the way. We would have, the people of Tobago would have made a decision at the last polls. We respected those decisions. We did the introspection, we did the work, and we would have apologized where we have had to. And we are now focused on bringing and presenting to the people of Tobago, one, a brand new team, two, a bold, big vision for Tobago, and three, a founding principle which says that we are going to put Tobago and Tobagonians first again in all aspects of our representation, our policies, and our programs.
Even as you talk about a bold new team and vision for Tobago, there are persons who have expressed not having as much confidence in the current political leader of the PNM. Even on social media, you've heard persons saying that Kelvon Morris may even be a better political leader for the PNM than Ansel Dennis. Do these sentiments play into the direction that the party may be going? Let's say, for instance, if you do not win the T.H.A elections, can we see a shift in leadership happening? And have you considered these sentiments of even your own PNM supporters?
I think most of those sentiments comes from the opposition trying to spew division, because that is what they when you look at their platform, that is what has been their motive and their modus operandi, which is really to create division, spread hate for the PNM and for a political leader. I have said plainly, publicly, from time to time, and reinforce that I have absolute confidence in the leadership of Mr. Ansel Dennis. I was quite impressed as a young man seeing him take up the mantle of Chief Secretary at only 33 years. And Mr. Dennis, during that period, demonstrated to all of Tobago that he had both the maturity, the intelligence, and the leadership to run this island. And therefore, now that he is even more politically experienced than he was in 2021, I have absolutely no doubt that he will make an excellent chief secretary, and he does have the kind of vision to take Tobago forward. So that issue, in my mind, is a non-issue. It is, and we won't allow ourselves to be distracted. I have always said, I am about Tobago. I'm about helping this People's National Movement to return to office, and I'm about serving Tobagonians to the best of my ability, and really representing my people, the residents of the electoral district of Darrell Spring Wim. And therefore, we are united PNM, united as never seen before. Everyone is solidly behind the leadership of Mr. Dennis at this time, and we continue to repose our confidence in his ability to lead us to victory.
And in your sentiments on the platform on Sunday, you expressed open arms to welcome back, former PNM members like Keegan Denoon, Natisha Charles Pantin, Joel Nazi Sampson, and Nigel Tate. Does that speak to your disappointment in some of the moves away from the People's National Movement towards the TPP, specifically the latest one from Keegan Denoon?
Well, I wouldn't say disappointment, but we are family. And if, like the prodigal son, if a family leaves home, of course, there will be some sense of sadness. But as you can appreciate, I still maintain a very good relationship with every one of those persons I mentioned. And notwithstanding, we now are on different political sides. I still see them as family, and therefore, it speaks to the PNM's ability, at this time where we are in a period of reconciliation and revival, and we are open to all PNM members who at one point felt disenchanted and felt like the PNM was no longer the best option for them. That we, as I said, we are revived PNM. We are PNM that is about really opening up ourselves to representing all of Tobago. And I've said it, and the political leader have said it as well. One of the dynamics we want to change in Tobago is this thing of political victimization for people choosing a party other than your own. Tobago is too small a place for us to live in divisiveness, in a political, drawing political lines and sharing the largest base on political support. If we really want to move Tobago forward, we have to move past seeing people simply for their political colors. And we've said, once you come with clean hands, with pure intentions to develop Tobago, you, no matter who you are, no matter who you support, you will have a seat at the table under
Right.
this People's National Movement.
Even as the PNM has, done the work or is currently doing the work to reconcile some of the areas that caused the fallout within the party, you heard from Keegan Denoon some of his concerns that led to him leaving the People's National Movement, feeling overlooked or, as though he was not embraced to be given particular opportunities. One of the situations mentioned was the fact that he did go into the internal elections vying for that seat, for that Bukumong Pleasant against the political leader, and though possibly having the support of the community, he felt as though he was railroaded. Do you acknowledge that these things will possibly, happening within the party, and what is the party now doing to try to fix these things moving forward so that other young persons are not also packing up and going over to the TPP?
Well, the point is the PNM, in my respectful view, is the most democratic political entity in Trinidad and Tobago. And when you contrast the PNM's process, which is a process that starts with the grassroots, the very foundation of our organs, the party groups. And the party groups will make nominations. Those nominees, once you get a nominee, will go through a screening process. The screening committee is a body where each member has one vote. The screening committee will then decide through that vote which candidate is the most appropriate candidate for the electoral district, and therefore that decision is respected. So while Mr. Denoon might feel some sense of disenchantment because of not being chosen, and that is his right to so feel and do, the process itself is very democratic. When you contrast that to even how we understood Mr. Denoon to be chosen, it leaves a lot to be desired, because as you can appreciate, up to 7:55 p.m. on the night when Mr. Denoon was announced as a TPP candidate, he was in fact a member of the People's National Movement, and the People's National Movement under those circumstances will never accept a candidate under those circumstances, respecting the principles of just decency and integrity, whereby you allow persons to disassociate themselves with a political entity, and then you engage those persons. But we respect whatever happens on that side. But at the same time, it is quite disingenuous to label the PNM as not providing opportunities for youth. Our candidate for Roxborough, Della Ford, is but only 26 years old, and she's a PNM standard bearer for Roxborough Delaford, and that the track record of Mr. Keegan Dinoon himself held one of the most senior positions in the executive of the People's National Movement, which is the chairman of the Tobago West. So therefore, it is quite unfair to say that the PNM does not provide opportunities for youth. Look at Mr. Dennis. He was chief secretary only at 33 years old, and that was done by a PNM party. Mr. Dennis also, I think Miss Tracy Davidson Celestine was the first female political leader in this Tobago space under the PNM, and she was at a very young age as well. She became political leader. So therefore, the PNM has always been a party of youth. And when you look at the kind of young people the PNM produce, it is because of the very arms of the PNM, where we have a dedicated youth league that prepares young people for leadership.
Understood. Well, we want to thank you so much for giving us your time this morning, and we're wishing you all the best in the upcoming T.H.A. elections 2026. Guys, we're going to take a quick break right here, and we'll be back after this. See you soon.
Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago. Let's go, go. It's a brand new morning. Rise up to a brand new dawning as the passion starter.